So the growing zones 3 through 8, we're going to hit on these guys first. This is the colder climate, cold temperate climate. You are finally almost past the crazy cold and the frost. My parents up in Michigan are done heating with the wood stove for the season, and they are so glad. And it's warm enough now to really be getting outside and making some progress. So the first thing that I would be doing if I lived in USDA zones 3 through 8 is this is prime time to make sure you have mulch on the different gardening areas. So if you're doing mulch or covering your annual vegetables, remember there's a big difference between plants that prefer bacterially dominated soil and fungally dominated soil. So the ones that are going to prefer bacteria dominated soil, those are going to be our soft stem plants. So think your annual vegetables, most herbs, and that sort of thing fall into that category of things that prefer bacterially dominated soil. Now, fungally dominated soil is the preference for things in the food forest. So if you have a hard stem plant, you want a hard stem mulch. If you have a soft stem plant, you want a soft stem mulch. So what does that practically look like? Annual vegetables, use straw. Because when straw decomposes, it creates a bacterially dominated soil structure. So it's feeding those microbes, the probiotics, the good nematodes. Now, when wood chips decompose or tree bark decomposes, that creates a fungally dominated soil structure, which is what your fruit trees like. So if you're in zones 3 through 8, this is the time of year to get everything topped off. Spring rainy season is right upon you, and usually, in the Midwest, you only get that kind of, month and a half, 2-month window where you've really got good spring rains. So make sure you've got that covering so the moisture level is increasing. It's also the time, if you haven't done your blood meal yet, you're a little bit behind, but it is time to do blood meal if you forgot to do that last month. Now, the second thing that I would be doing in zones 3 through 8 is this is when you want to be doing your spring deworming for your animals, for your livestock. Whether you're using a pharmaceutical or you're doing something like ivermectin, that's a healthy bacteria microbe, or you're using something organic like the original Basic H. That's the one that I typically use for my animals, livestock, poultry, that sort of thing. Whatever you're using, this is a great month to do that. Their bodies are warming up. Their bodies are getting more active again. They're out of the winter dormancy. But even as they're getting more active, hookworms are getting active, roundworms are getting more active. The soil is waking up. So just make sure your animals are ready. And whenever you're finished with your deworming cycle, whatever you are using for that mechanism, make sure you follow up a week later with a good, healthy probiotic to just re-inoculate their gut and the microbiome of their bodies. So you've got a really good reset. You've wiped out the bad guys, you've reintroduced the good guys, and you're going to be great for the rest of the season. The third thing that I would be thinking about this time of year, if you're in USDA zones 3 through 8, this is your final round of planting your annual vegetables. I know it just seems crazy because some of you had snow even a couple weeks ago, but if you haven't started them in trays, this is kind of the last chance. Even when it comes to food plots, like my family, we don't feed deer off of a deer feed pile. We don't bait them, so we do food plots. And so this is the time of year when we're doing all of the clovers. Daikon radishes are already in, turnips are already in. We're getting ready to do sun hemp in all of those food plots. And the same thing kind of with your pastures, as this is the month to really jump in on seeding and reseeding all of your pastures and your food plots and getting that last hurrah of annual vegetable seeds planted, because the growing season is really here and it's upon us. Let me take a little sip of my tea. So that's USDA zones 3 through 8. You're doing your mulching first, deworming, and then your last round of planting, and you guys are G to G, good to go for the month.